Welcome everyone here today. Welcome to Back to School Night. My name is Mrs. Lazarek. I'm the superintendent principal of our school. We're kind of switching it up to your traditional Back to School Night where you get a schedule and you just follow your child's schedule and you listen to every teacher individually. What we're going to do instead is we're going to have the departments present to you everything you would have heard in that classroom, but you're going to hear it departmentally because we're very consistent throughout our departments. And then you're going to have the second half. You have your child's schedule. You're going to have that schedule. You could still go around and see every one of those teachers. You can get to see their classroom. They're going to have a lot more detail in their classroom. And you can kind of go at your own pace and go around. If there's one teacher that's got a lot of parents in there, you can go to another teacher and come back. And you'll have all that time. Also on your sheet, you also have every teacher and their email address. So, and the room, because some of them teach in different rooms, so we put a room number where you can find them. Now, the most important thing is we feel that communication is important, so please use that email address if you have any questions. If you'd like to speak or meet with one of your child's teachers, please don't hesitate to call the main office. We'll set up a meeting with one or all of your child's teachers at any time. You also, if you have any issues with real-time or Google Classroom, those are the two things. Real-time has the grades 24/7. You can access that anytime. And Google Classroom has all of the classroom assignments. That's what your children log into to do their homework, and you can see all the assignments there. But again, if you have any questions, you can ask your child. If that, you still have questions, please don't hesitate to email, call, stop in. I will meet with you. If you pop in, my door's always open. I might be meeting with someone else. I might be in a classroom. But if it's urgent, I will meet with you. Your priority, you chose to come here. We are your school of choice, and we want to keep it that way. And that's what I feel is different about us. We have to compete for your business, where your district school, they're kind of entitled to your business. We have to choose, we have to have you make that choice. So we want to continue to earn that. And we're really excited to have everybody here. The clubs will, if you have any questions, we kind of have them out now. If you have a quick question on your way out, we can answer your questions. And again, so we're going to hear from each department. And thank you for coming, and welcome again. And we're going to kick it off with our art department. This is Miss Anderson.
Hi. Oh, that's okay. So, very simple. I'm the head of the art department and the only member. So we do lots of things in the art room. It's the one room in this building that I try to not use the computer so much because they're on them so much as it is. So it's fine art. We don't really do much computer design or anything like that. So these are just some of the things that we're going to do this year. Painting, sculpture. I'm really excited about using recycled materials to create artwork. And if you have any questions, I am up in the 300 building, and that's where we have art every day. So thank you for listening. Next is world language.
Miss Schumann.
Buenas tardes. So all my kids think that when they're taking world language, they're going to get to take Japanese and German and French. And I say, I'm sorry, lo siento, solo español. Okay, so your kids are learning Spanish for the next 3 years, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We have different focuses each year. But my main thing with them is conversation, because that's what makes language fun. So every new unit that we do, we make sure that we have some kind of question and answer piece to it. that they get to practice with partners or in little dialogues, and sometimes they have to go in front of the room. They don't all love that, but they do get pretty good at it. We also have a lot of vocabulary building through a set that I'll give you. I post it on Classroom. Each time it's with a Quizlet set. So if you're wondering what do you have to study for Spanish right now, you can go on Classroom, on our Spanish Classroom, and find the Quizlet set, and those are the words that they need to know for that unit. And we do some grammar as they get a little bit older. They learn how to conjugate verbs and form sentences. And then we always are learning about culture through maps and then just different holidays and things like that throughout the year. So if you need have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
Mr. Steinitz for our music.
Hi. The music class is a general music class. It's academic. We do focus on pop culture, history, technology, and I offer a performance class, which is the piano class to the 6th graders. I think this year I'm going to also offer free guitar lessons once a week during lunch, when I can make it. So for anybody that wants to be involved, you can do that. All the materials that I have for the kids are usually in the Google Classroom. We really don't have any homework, but we do, a fair number of quizzes, and it's fairly academic. The kids really have to stay on top of it. If you have any questions, you can always contact me through the school, and if you have any suggestions for anything you'd like to see your kids involved in, please let me know.
Next up, we have our math department. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Mr. Bell. This is Miss Graziano, Miss Anderson, Miss Schoonover, and Miss Wetstein. And we make up the math department. Okay, so our curriculum is the NJCTL curriculum. It is based off of an online program. It follows the Common Core State Standards. It provides hands-on labs for each chapter, and it allows students to relate and understand how it connects to real life. Every class is going to be the same this year, so tests and projects are 40%, quizzes are 25%, classwork is 25%, and homework is 10%. We do have 2 standardized tests that your students are going to take. So we offer, obviously, the NJSLA, or it used to be called PARC. They'll take that in May. But this year we are offering the MAP test. They're going to take it 3 times a year. It figures out what grade level that they're on. It's really a useful tool for us teachers. Now, if you're ever at home and your student is struggling and they don't understand the math homework, these are some websites that they can use. Virtual Nerd and Khan Academy. We've probably all heard of Khan Academy, but Virtual Nerd is a bunch of different videos of a lady doing problems on a whiteboard. It really does help. It teaches basically like how any of us would teach the math content. IXL is new this year. We're still in the process of getting their logins, but if your child's at home and they have nothing to do, they can go on IXL and they can practice their math skills. If you have any questions, you can come see any of us in either 112 or 111. Yeah, thank you.
Next up is our STEM department.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Schwartz. I am the lead STEM teacher. We are, unlike a lot of schools in the area, that we actually have STEM every day. It's a regular class, not just one marking period or after school. So it's really beneficial for your kids to get this experience. Another really great thing about teaching STEM is I get to teach with all of these teachers. All these teachers are involved in some part of our STEM program, and that's really neat that I get to work with all these different great teachers, math teachers, and other science teachers. A lot of times people ask why we teach STEM in middle school, and this is just a few reasons why. As you probably know, for decades, the United States has been losing its prevalence in the STEM field, so we really need to build those kids back up. Schools need to properly train students to deal with real-world problems. Almost all our projects involve some sort of real-world problem that the kids are asked to come up with a solution for. Middle school is often the time when your child's going to begin to think about what they want to be when they grow up. And I think it's our obligation to at least extend them, expose them to the STEM field, even though they may not be a career choice for them. The skills that they learn in STEM are going to be regardless of no matter what kind of career path they take. The ideas of teamwork, collaboration, and critical thinking is what we do almost every day. And students begin to understand the interconnections between the world and why they're studying certain things. This is a list of projects that we do. I'm not going to go through these, but we do quite a bit of different projects. I have examples of most of these in room 214 and 215. When you come visit the classrooms, you can take a look at those. But we do a lot of things during the course of the year. And we also are involved in trying to get money to buy expensive toys that are required for the STEM program. We've been successful in getting CenturyLink grants, First Industry grant, BASF grant. Several teachers have done GoFundMes. The PTO is very generous in what they give to us. But it does take, we do get quite a lot of tools, a lot of kind of cool things. Next, the science department.
Hi, I'm Mrs. DiCaprio, and we have Mrs. Schoonover and Mrs. Duncan that comprise our science department. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about our multiple NGSS standards that we use for all 3 science grades. So these are the next generation science standards. As you can see, they connect learning to real world, authentic experiences, so our students can go into the world ready for that 21st century critical thinking. We incorporate something called cross-cutting concepts into our inquiry and thinking strategies that comprise patterns, systems, and other concepts that repeat that we find in nature and in the world around us. So naturally, sustainability is a big part of that, and that's integrated into all of our teaching. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about 6th grade. I teach 6th and 7th, and then we were split. I think Mrs. Duncan is the only one that teaches the whole entire 8th grade. Okay. But in 6th grade, your children will be learning 3 main units, and they'll be Earth's history and evolution, and matter, which involves chemistry, and astronomy, and exploring the Earth's place in the universe. And throughout all 3 of those units, there will be some repeated learning about the systems and the cycles that happen in the world. So there will always be human impact and how it affects the environment and what we can do to help problem solve and sustain our world. A couple of things that I include in my 6th grade program and in my 7th grade classes as well is the hydroponics and greenhouse learning. So that can be integrated into almost any of the units. And hydroponics is a big part of sustainability right now and finding alternate ways to grow our natural resources. Also, hopefully, we'll integrate with the art department and with the ELA teachers in maybe reflecting upon what we're learning in science and just doing some collaborative work together. A lot of you know that I am involved in the Cubes in Space program, so some of my students choose to do an experiment that can fit inside a cube this size that could potentially launch in a sounding rocket or a research balloon every spring and summer. And when we started the program 3 years ago, we had 3 out of 9 student groups get accepted because, yes, they're actually judged by real NASA engineers and teachers. And last year, we got 6 projects accepted. And any day now, the research balloon is going to launch from Fort Sumner, New Mexico, with a bunch of your children's experiments on board. So we have multiple different experiments. You can check out my bulletin board in the hallway by 105 and see what types of experiments are going to fly. And now I'm going to pass the baton over to Mrs. Schoonover, who will tell us about 7th grade science.
So in the 7th grade, the students will cover 3 main units of topic. We start with ecology, We then go into waves and their interactions, things like sound waves and light waves, and their applications. How are they used with today's technology, with your cell phones, with our computers, with your TV screens? Because a lot of these students forget that these things have to be powered in some way, shape, or form. And then our huge unit for the year is genetics. So we talk about common day genetics, we talk about earlier genetics, we look at applications of genetics, and we really spend a good chunk of time delving into that, probably most of the students' favorite topics to cover throughout the year. Mrs. Duncan's going to tell us a little bit about the 8th grade curriculum.
I just want to first start off by saying what an awesome school this is. It's incredible. So, and this isn't my first rodeo, so I just wanted to say that. The 8th grade covers cellular processes, which would be like plant and animal cells. We utilize about 12 or 13 microscopes, which are being updated at the moment. 16 microscopes. The kids love to look at the little bugs crawling around. We go out in our retention pond here, or a local lake, or even the ocean, and we collect plankton. And they get to see what they swim with or what they swallow when they accidentally swallow water. But we also teach the significance of these little guys. They produce about 80% of our oxygen that we breathe. So we learn about that. We also talk about forces and motion, the laws of inertia, Newton's laws, and theories. They bring in their skateboards and we, anything with wheels, and we go outside and we play, and we learn about the laws of inertia. Earth's systems. We do plate tectonics. We focus on weather patterns and hurricanes and tornadoes, and they become their own meteorologists and forecast the weather. And we do biogeological chemical cycles, which would be like carbon and oxygen and things like that. And then, of course, my favorite, oceanography. We run a couple different aquariums. We're going to be doing a saltwater aquarium. We did a freshwater aquarium. Trout in the classroom. It's the best. The kids love it. We raise about 300 little baby trout, and then we raise them up, and then we release them into the local watersheds. The kids love it. It's very fulfilling to see the process of growing them and then releasing them. Okay, so this is my dream. I want to have a saving one coral reef at a time. The corals are in danger, so if you're interested in participating in this, I'd love to hear your ideas. We're going to fragment coral and reproduce them, and then grow them and possibly replenish the oceans, hopefully speaking. If not, the kids learn how to do it.
Just a little bit of elaboration on our hydroponics. Every year it gets a little bit better and bigger, and we now have 2 greenhouses. So kids are working on building the second one and polishing it up, and one of our next goals is to add power to one of them so that we can actually run the hydroponics maybe possibly throughout the whole year and keep growing vegetables, and maybe someday have a farm to table. That's like the ultimate goal. And then this is just some of the joyful students whose projects got to go up into space and were exposed to some of the different conditions in the stratosphere.
So lastly, real quick, I think something that sets the science department aside from other departments is that we bring in a lot of speakers throughout the year. We've had the pleasure of hosting a multitude of different speakers, whether they're here to talk about our watersheds, whether they're scientists from NASA. We Skyped with a geologist out in Montana, and we even brought in a genetic counselor last year to talk about all of her work. And in science, everything is collaborative. So if you were to walk past a science classroom, you most likely wouldn't see many students sitting in their desks writing on a worksheet. You'll see them up and about. You'll see them in groups. You'll see them working on projects. So these are just some of the various projects we have collaborated with the students in. So next up, I believe, is the ELA department.
Hello. There are quite a few of us, so you don't have to clap after each of us. You could, but you don't have to.
I'm Imogene Myzelinski. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade writing here. Jill Steffens, Hillary Katlars, Kate Getchus, Robin Scheffler, Jeannie Sevian, and Sarah Anderson.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm Robin Scheffler, and I would like to just share with you our goals in our department regarding reading and writing being taught separately. As you know, we need to apply reading and writing skills to all of our curriculum, social studies, science, and then, of course, in later life, you're out in the industry and you have to write. So we think it's critical to success, and so we teach it in isolation, but yet we also cross-teach within our department. So if we're reading a piece of literature in reading, we may be writing about that piece of literature in writing. And your students get a double dose every day. We also like to select materials. The third paragraph, just to summarize that third paragraph, we like to select materials that our students can relate to, that are motivational to them, that will emulate their own lives so that they can make a connection to literature, which is hard in our times because we are so connected to technology, and we are a school for technology as well. So we love to get that love for reading, and we try to make it an authentic, real-life experience for the students. And the other teachers will share some of the materials that we've chosen for your children. Thank you.
Hello. So the writing curriculum, and with all of our writing curriculum, we sort of start 6th grade with the basic foundations of that kind of writing and build on that every year. So we start every grade with narrative, or 6th and 8th grade starts with narrative writing. In 6th grade, they start with the basic elements of plot and building on that plot. 7th grade, they move into creating a fuller plot that has more details and more of the elements that show that they are improving their writing. And then in 8th grade, we do a couple really awesome things. We participate in NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. So it helps now, we're working on not just the elements of the plot, but building stamina in writing and building the ability to write for longer periods of time and like write more, which is something that's really hard for them in middle school. Yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, that's really good. It's true. Okay, so NaNoWriMo, it's really awesome because once they get there, we've actually had students, I think last year the most my student had written was 17,000 words. So in the month of November, they write every single day, so it's a really cool curriculum we're able to bring in because we break up reading and writing so that these students are able to participate, something they wouldn't normally be able to do. Next, we do informative writing. So there's various essays they write, which is their least favorite time of year, beware. But we do work on a lot of different kinds of writing. We do article writing, compare and contrast, cause and effect journalism, which we try to incorporate, obviously, real life like research. So a lot of the times we're researching what's happening right now, especially in our 8th grade unit. We do a whole research where we are researching what's going on in everyday life right now in politics and stuff like that. So, yeah.
That kind of ties into our third unit, which is argumentative writing. This is probably one of their favorites because middle schoolers love to argue. They like to be right. 6th graders will write an argumentative letter to our principal. They pick a school issue that they feel strongly about. A lot of them write about no uniforms. 7th grade does an argumentative essay research project on a teen-related issue, so something that teens face and have to deal with in their everyday lives. And 8th graders spend their unit learning about investigative journalism and what it means to be a journalist. How do you figure out what is fact versus what is fiction? And then at the end, they write an op-ed on a current event, world issue that they feel strongly about. Our fourth unit is poetry. We bring it back to the creative writing a little bit. We read poetry, write poetry, we analyze it, we do a lot of group work, we do a lot of projects. Students often think that poetry is boring based on their experiences in elementary school. We try to make them think that it can be, or realize that it can be fun and interesting and relevant to them. We spend a week in 7th grade studying the poetics of hip hop, which they enjoy. They get to write a rap song at the end. We do a lot of viewing of spoken word and slam poetry. 8th graders do an author's chair where they are writing and then presenting to one another.
Hello. Unit 5 is our last unit in the writing class, and it's where our students are allowed to be very creative, work in groups, using all the concepts that they've learned throughout the year on descriptive writing. We break it up a little differently. In 6th grade, they're going to be writing a play. 7th grade, they're going to be screenwriting. And then in 8th grade, they're going to be writing about important memory and memoir. And so this is the last unit in the writing where they will be working with groups, and some will be performing and reading out loud.
I apologize in advance if anybody has already complained about this. Achieve 3000 is our reading program. A couple of years ago, we were looking for a really research-based, top-notch reading program to help all of our students reach their full reading potential, and this is what we found. And we have already found that each year our students improve their reading so much. The way it works is that Achieve 3000 pushes out a benchmark level set, which establishes a Lexile score or a reading level for each student. And then every article each week, your child interacts with these articles at their personal Lexile level. At the end of the month, the system automatically adjusts based on their performance that month. So if they need the vocabulary to come down a little bit because they're struggling, or if they need the vocabulary to challenge them a little bit more, it adjusts the first week of every month. We have found that our students typically in the last 3 years improve 75 to 100 points on average every year. So we are really, really happy with this program. I have a lot of details here. I could go on and on about it for a very long time. I will be in room 201 if you have any questions about it, because I can talk ad nauseum about it. But it's really amazing, and if your children complain, I apologize, but I promise you it is worth it. It is worth the productive struggle that they have as they grapple through all of it, all of the vocabulary and all the challenges it presents to them. We use it cross-curricularly. The science department uses it, the social studies department uses it, the writing class uses it. So on average, twice a week, they will work on an article. And just a little aside, just to let you know, the way it works is that if in the science department, they wanted to give an article about, let's say, the ocean. That class, every single student would have access to that content and that information, but they would get it at their reading level so that no child gets left behind. Not kidding. It's a good thing. Anyway, come see me too if you have a question. Next.
Each grade level will read different novels, but what we do share across all grade levels is our common themes. So we start off the year with our Foundations of Literature, which each year they have a basic elements of literature review. And as the years go on, it gets a little bit shorter because by the time you're in 8th grade, they've pretty much been, beaten over the head with what are the elements of literature. And then we move on to Literature Reflects Life, Characters of Character, and we finish off the year with Power of Community, which the kids really enjoy because those are our dystopian literature novels. And then we build off of each year, we build off of the lessons in order for our students to have a full understanding of each thematic topic. So it's kind of like with writing, how we build every year, same thing with reading. We build on that thematic topic every year.
So this is just a general list of some of the novels that we read in each grade and some other genres of readings that we will explore. We do novel study here.
which means that we will read a novel as a class that can involve group reading, individual reading, paired reading, small group, all different ways, and it gives us the opportunity to have students read out loud, for us to read out loud to the students, for them to explore with each other and feel comfortable on all levels so that they get the most out of these novels especially. But then we also do short stories, and we have a variety of dystopian novels. In 7th and 8th grade, we do literature circles at the end of the year. So the 6th graders will read a novel together, and then at the end of 7th and 8th grade, most of them will read dystopian novels in literature circles where they get to choose out of a selection of books that we have chosen. Now, depending on the teacher or the level of your student, it could depend on which novels or stories that they're exposed to. But we do believe in a lot of choice, and we're always looking for new texts to bring into our classrooms. With the reading, of course, there are activities, and we try to cover all different ways of, not just writing a response, though that is very important. But it is important for them to know how to respond in written word, but it's also important for them to know how to communicate. So something like Socratic seminars. I know the science department talked about that. We, in 7th grade, usually will start introducing our students to the structure of that and the idea of questioning each other. That there's not always one answer, especially when you're reading. We want them to question everything and think of other things, other ideas or issues that could come up. Sometimes we as teachers will generate the questions, sometimes we have students generate the questions. And the greatest part about this is that by the time they're doing these, the teachers step back, and this is completely student-centered. They've done research outside of the novels or texts that they're reading. They've used pair texts along with their novels, and even the students that maybe aren't so comfortable with speaking out loud in class, learn to gain this confidence that I know in other departments are making this too. They get so excited that they were able to contribute and feel really great about what they know and share.
We are the School of Technology, and so therefore it is incorporated into both our reading and writing classes. We use a lot of different online programs. You heard us talk about Achieve 3000. Spelling City is our vocab online program, and most students within the reading class will have Spelling City homework each week. No Red Ink is a diagnostic online program for grammar. Wordsmith, EasyBib, those are programs that help, and Graded will help the students improve their writing, whether it's looking up definitions or proofreading, editing. I think that's all we do. I'm sorry. Map testing is new. It was something that the math department talked about, and it also has a reading component. So that definitely is something that is new to us. And now it's the social studies department.
Please.
Good afternoon, students. Welcome to social studies class. You all look so happy to be here.
I'm so happy, Miss Rader. Social studies is my favorite class. We learn so much in here. This is why charter school is the best.
Let's talk about that. Why is social studies the best subject?
I like all the different ways we learn the materials, like PowerPoint, class discussions, activity lists, and projects.
Do you remember the pyramid project from 6th grade? I built my pyramid on Minecraft and made a video with it.
I made my pyramid out of sugar cubes. It came out really cool.
I like the videos we watch and the skits we perform.
And how about the games? They're fun.
The best part of social studies is the guest speakers.
Do you remember when Mr. Baldini dressed up like Caesar?
Did somebody say Caesar? here?
We are in social studies class, and we're learning about the Native Americans.
Oh, very, very interesting. Very interesting.
You know, Caesar, you look an awful lot like Mr. Baldini.
Well, Mr. Baldini is in Rome right now holding down the Senate because I have heard the same thing, that we do look similar. But he is there taking care of the Romans.
Well, you know, Caesar, we do have to get back to class.
Oh, yes, I do have an appointment with Brutus and his friends in the Senate. I do know. Au revoir, fair friends, and do your work, young gentlemen.
Thank you, Caesar, for visiting today.
Oh, ciao.
I love that Mr. Baldini dressed up like Caesar.
And her Pocahontas might come to visit us this year in 8th grade.
Pocahontas. That'll be so much fun.
And don't forget, this year in 8th grade, you get to go to Salmon in Boston.
Yay!
All right, students, it's time to get back to our lesson now.
Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
Give them a round of applause. Alright, so we are the Social Studies Department, Mr. Baldini and myself. Best subject.
The
We
best
actually like to refer to it that way because social studies, our philosophy, is that social studies is a story. And it's how well you tell the story. And that's really what makes social studies interesting.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
We both teach the 6th grade, so if you see either one of our names on there. 6th grade we do ancient civilization, so it starts with early man and it goes all the way to ancient India. The pyramid project is one that we mentioned, where students get to build their own pyramid after learning about the pyramids.
Well, thank you. She does all the heavy lifting. I'm just here for my looks. So this is the arch. Obviously, there's a very handsome man up there. Jason, he's a good kid too. Anyway, this is the arch. We do the arch project. Obviously, it's a Roman kind of thing where we talk about not just the idea of the arch and how great it was, but we also talk about how it was a time saver, how it was built, the stress and the kind of like the structural mechanics of it, and how every Roman legionnaire had to be a minor engineer just to be able to build these. And that's one of the people who really made most of it were the Roman legions, as they went around Rome building roads and building all kinds of other stuff. We do spend a lot of time talking about Rome, but we also go on to, we also make sure we talk about Greece, do a lot of government work. We start the year out with U.S. government and just general governments in general. What do you have? What do they do? What are their purpose? What should they do? And then we move on to the regular history of the timeline. We aim to get to 1215 at least, which is the Magna Carta, which then gets it kicked off. Magna Carta's importance is it stops. It's the first place where the king gets stopped. And we pass it off to the American history. Then in the 8th grade, I'll do this one for you. I'll do this one. I got it.
I don't want you to do too much work.
Well, you know, he is Caesar. But so we pass it off to the 8th grade where they deal with the actual revolution, and so the king is stopped. All right, so you ready?
I'm ready.
Boom, there you go.
So I teach all of the 8th grade sections, and it is American history, and we try to do as much as we can to prepare them for high school. So different ways to learn the material. One of our favorite is guest speakers. So we do try to bring in as much as we possibly can. We try to do reenactments, skits, anything to get the students involved in the history, because that's what's going to make you remember the history, is if you're involved. So we had Abraham Lincoln come visit us, Ulysses S. Grant, we had King George come and visit us, we even had Pocahontas come up from Jamestown. It was a miracle. So we try to bring in as many guest speakers, as many things as we can do to get your students involved in the actual history. And then 8th graders get the opportunity, if they choose to, which Caesar, do you mind?
No.
Hitting the button?
Well, of course.
Thank you. 8th graders do have a class trip. If they choose to go, it's to Salem and Boston. We learn everything that's on this trip. So when they go there, they actually see everything that they've learned. And it really is an experience. As a teacher, every year I say I'm going to take a break and not go, but I can't because when I watch these kids and their faces when they're seeing everything that they learned, it's such a moment for a teacher that can't even be described. So if you have any questions about the 8th grade trip, certainly come and see me. I will answer any questions that you have about it. And that is it for self-studies.
The best subject.
I follow this all the time.
We'll be doing another show in the afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Ms. Kopaczynski. I am one of the 2 health and physical education teachers here at the charter school. Mr. Fialkowitz is also part of the department. He is not here this evening because he is actually in New Mexico getting trained especially for this program that he's been in. He's going in for the 3rd level of certification for MoveNet, which he's actually bringing into the classroom. Some of the students from last year were able to do this program, and they started to fall in love with it. It's all about natural movement, working with your body. It started to go into a little parkour, so every once in a while we would freak out the office because they would see the students climbing the beams, and it made for an interesting day. I've been here at the charter school for about 15 years. Mr. Fialkowitz has been here about 10 years now. We've been working together for a long time. Our curriculum. We go by the state curriculum. We also follow the national standards as well for health and physical education. The students have really helped us with that. They do great with it. They always ask what type of thing we're going to be doing the next day. We also try to tie in character education. These banners are not just there to make the gym look pretty. Okay, we actually do bring each of these words into our lessons as much as possible. We've been really trying to drive the past couple of days, since the students are getting to know each other, the citizenship aspect, the cooperation aspect, respect, and responsibility. If you're not doing so well, to have the resilience, you'll follow through with it, you'll be able to do it. Units of health. We actually set up where it is about 2 to 3 weeks of physical education, followed by a week or 2 of health, followed by 2 to 3 weeks of physical education, all the way through the year. It's not just one marking period of health. We try to break it up, that way we can tie everything in together. It also helps because one of us will be in the gym while one of us in health, and then we'll switch. There will be times where we'll have 2 classes in here at once. 6th grade in the afternoon, I apologize, there's no empty room, so we've got 56 graders in here at once, but we make it work, and the kids are starting to really learn how to work with one another. Everything we do for projects, project-based, student-based, they absolutely love it. We even have a project in 7th grade that we do with the phys ed department where they actually get to create their own games using any of the equipment we have here. This is something I've been doing ever since I basically started teaching. And the kids fall in love with it. They create their own games, they create their own rules, and then it will be scheduled a day to teach the game to the class. As I get the evil eye from an 8th grade student because they didn't get a chance to do it last year. Nothing to say we're not going to do it this year. The Appalachian Trail Challenge. This is something that Mr. Fialkowitz has come up with, and the 6th graders have fallen in love with it. We actually go through the Appalachian Trail with our students in a couple different ways. Our parking lot is our track. It takes 11 laps to do 1 mile. So beginning of class, we might have them run 2 or 3 laps, and then we'll have them mark it down. Or there'll be days where it's really nice out. They just need to get that energy out. So do as many laps as you possibly can by the end of the period. We've had students finish 2 miles in 1 period. And they come in, they write down their miles, or they write down their laps, then they convert them. And they start off down at the beginning of the Appalachian Trail, and we start marking on a map that we have hanging in our office. The students have to do the conversions, so we bring math into it. We bring in the geography, because we'll post up sites of where they're actually at, on the trail within the state, and the things that are going to be around them. And the goal is, starting in September, we're down here, by June, we want to try to get to the very end of the Appalachian Trail. This year, health-wise, I want to try to bring in what would you find on the trail? What safety items are you going to look for? So, talking about weather conditions, talking about animals, snake bites, how you do basic first aid, nutrition on the trail. What are some of the things that you're going to find if you can't get to a town within a couple days? Start bringing that influence into it as well. And then Mr. Fialkowitz will take and offer out to the students he wants to try to do more. It's typically 4 different dates throughout the school year. Well, he'll actually meet with the students, with his family, on a Saturday, and parents are more than welcome to come too, and they will go on different sections of the Appalachian Trail and go for a hike. Special programs that we have. We actually do have a lot of guest speakers. We do a couple of different programs. We do have Mrs. Palumbo come in every once in a while. She is an excellent speaker to our students. She definitely talks to them about our HIV program and what's entitled in that. We have Detective Laird coming in actually shortly at the end of September to talk to all the students about cyberbullying. This year we're going to have, with the 8th grade, again tying in the Appalachian with mindfulness, because we're very big on mindfulness here, and meditation. Ryan Benz, this will be a new program that we'll be running this year. 7 Habits for the Highly Effective Teen, we do with the Center for Prevention and Counseling. We've been doing this program 4 or 5 years now. It's just 7th grade, it's once a week, and it'll be starting in October, and it'll end in December. So that day, instead of health or physical education, there'll be representatives from the program to come and talk with the students about each of the different aspects of that program. Daisy will also come in and do a health and relationships assembly, followed by the 6th graders who will have a media literacy program that they will do similar to 7 Habits, where they'll come in once a week for roughly 7 to 10 weeks and talk about stereotypes, certain things, how the media spins, different ideas, ways to look into it. NASP is the National Archery in Schools program. Both Mr. Fialkowitz and I are certified through NASP. So yes, we do archery here at the school. It is done here in this gym where you're sitting right now. Right about here is where the curtain goes. Back there is where they stand at their safety line. They have to take a written test, and they must pass it every year that they're here before we will actually put a bow and arrow in their hands. So there's a lot of safety components. We are also looking to possibly do an archery club come spring, because I've gotten a couple students that have asked me about that and signed a petition, so we'll see what we can do about that. I mentioned MoveNet with Mr. Fialkowitz. He does his Movement Monday with his class specifically, and I'm going to try to see if there's a couple days to let both of our classes work with him on that. And then students are definitely going to complain about this. They probably came home to the other day. Yesterday being in day, I'm like, I can't move. Because yesterday was our first workout Wednesday. They will have that every Wednesday. It's not always going to be the same thing. Sometimes we come up with our own routine. Sometimes we will throw a video up that we found up on YouTube. I have a Peloton account, so they'll be doing different exercises from there as well. And I just got notification of a possible guest speaker to come in and do a workout session with them. So I'm going to look into that as well. Just so it's not always Mr. Fialkowitz and I telling them, oh, you got to do this, and they're looking at it like, They seem to have to get into the gist of it after a while. And the whole point is just to make them a little bit healthier, make them a little bit stronger. Okay. And turn it over to Scott.
So before I introduce Mrs. Palumbo, she's going to say a few words. I'd like to dismiss the teachers to their rooms so that after Mrs. Palumbo speaks, everyone will be ready in their rooms. So teachers can head to your rooms. Mrs. Palumbo is here. She's our full-time counselor.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I just wanted to talk about a couple things with all of you, especially for our new parents too. I have counseling walk-in hours every day, so I want to make sure you all know that and that your students know that. It's during lunch, which is halfway through the day, and then during enrichment at the end of the day. So if there's ever an issue that you say to your child, maybe you should go talk to someone at school about that, maybe you should go talk to the counselor, and then they say, I don't know when to go to the counselor. You say, you can go during lunch, you can go during enrichment, and that's fine. The teachers will let them come to me at that The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights law. It's been a law for about 10 years, so most of you probably have heard about it. I don't know how much the elementary schools really talk about it, so I wanted to make sure I talked to the 6th grade parents about it. It's also called, you may hear it called HIB or HIB. It stands for Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying. So the main points I want you to know about the law is that we follow the law. We take the law very seriously, and we take bullying seriously. A lot of times there's issues in middle school that may seem like bullying or sound at least like kids are being mean. A lot of times there's drama, it's pure conflict, but I just want you to know if you report something, we follow up on it no matter what you call it. If you do call it bullying when you report it, you do open up an HIB investigation, and it becomes a little more official, I guess I would say. If you report it as bullying, I guess my point about us having to follow up on it officially is sometimes parents will email or call and say, I'd like to report something, I think there's bullying going on, but I don't want you to do anything about it, can you just watch? And once you use the word bullying, it's like we can't just watch, we have to follow up on it. So that's why I wanted to make you guys aware of that, because some parents are frustrated then that they use that word and they didn't really mean to. So I just want to let you know. But regardless of what you call it, we will follow up on it. The state definition of what the state determines what bullying is, like we have to follow their definition, which doesn't always match what all of us adults have in our head as bullying or the definition we grew up with. So the legislators came up with their own definition. It's on our website, and even if you just Google it, you'll find it too. But it can be a single incident that is considered bullying by the state. So some of us grew up with like thinking bullying was like repeated. So it can be a single incident. It's we have to show that there was like harm to the student. So if something happens to a student and they're like, it didn't bother me, I don't care, then that doesn't meet the definition of the state. And another thing is there needs to be a distinguishing characteristic. So a student was made fun of or bullied because of something specific about them, their race, their religion, their sexual orientation, something like distinguishing about their body, like they have like ears that are sticking out and someone's making fun of that. Or if they're overweight or too thin or too tall or whatever. It's just, there has to be like a distinguishing characteristic. Again, that's the state law. So that's what we follow. Intention is not part of the law. So if the student who is teasing or saying something, and they didn't like mean to be mean, but the other student is harmed and it meets all those other parts of the definition, technically it would be HIB even if they didn't mean it. So I definitely want you guys to talk to your kids about that. Just make them aware about it, because that happens sometimes where they don't mean it. We've had HIB cases where the student was telling like racist jokes at the lunch table. He certainly didn't think he was bullying anyone, but if someone hears that and they're offended by it, certainly there's a distinguishing characteristic if it's a racist joke. So it was, in some cases like that, found to be HIB. So that's why I want to bring that to your attention, so you can talk to your kids about it. If they hear something funny on like Family Guy, probably not something they should talk about in school. So our response. So when we get an HIB report, we have to call the parents of the target and the parents of the aggressor and let you know that we're doing an investigation. We have 10 days to do the investigation. We usually do them within a few days because it's usually not something that takes that long as all the kids are here and nobody's absent for an extended period of time. We usually do it pretty quickly. We want it to stop, whatever it is, so we're certainly not going to take our time with it. What else was I going to say? Our response to it. So there can be a disciplinary response if a student is found to be an aggressor in a bullying situation, which might be a number of lunch detentions or in-school suspension or an out-of-school suspension. But a lot of times, sometimes the only response is a remedial response, which is one where we come up with some sort of assignment or activity or something for the student to do to help them understand what they were doing wrong, to educate them so they learn from it. Like I said before, it could be a one-time incident. So that doesn't really give a kid a chance to like learn from a mistake. So we realize that, especially with sixth graders, you know, we just want them to learn. So a lot of times the response might just be remedial, even if it is found to be technically bullying. So that could be anything from like a reflection essay or having them meet with me to talk about it. I have a picture book that I use sometimes with kids called Just Kidding. So I have them read that and then we answer the questions that are in the book at the end. It's just whatever we think is appropriate. Mrs. Lazaruk and I talk about it and decide based on the situation what's appropriate because every situation is different. And that's it. So if anybody wants to talk to me about anything, I will be in here when you guys leave.
So we're in the school building back here. Our nurse is back here, Massio's our new food services back here, and our PTO. And our National Junior Honor Society volunteers are here. If you have any questions about any of these activities that you didn't get to see in the way, they can talk about them